Welcome back to the 50 State Cold Case Spotlight. Today we're in Texas for day 2, and I will be spotlighting the case of Sheila Finch. I covered Sheila Finch's case on the Sipping on Some Crime podcast, and I'm so happy to be spotlighting her case again. In 1989, Sheila Finch was 10 years old, and she had just moved back to Waco 2 weeks prior to be with her grandmother. She was previously living with her father and stepmother in Fort Worth area, but she missed her grandmother. Family discussed it and agreed that Sheila could move back to Waco with Grandma. Sheila was now back in Waco and was excited to get enrolled in school. On the morning of October 1989, Sheila and her grandmother planned to go to the school and get Sheila enrolled, but they needed a ride. Around 8:30 a.m. that morning, Sheila dressed in a long red sleeve sweatshirt and red pants and hopped on her pink bike and headed less than half a mile down to the corner store in Dutton Avenue and South 26th Street to call her Aunt Trina to see if she could give her and her grandmother a ride to the elementary school and get her registered. We do know that Sheila arrived at the grocery store where she used the payphone to call her Aunt Trina's house, but her uncle answered instead. Her uncle told her to call back in a few minutes because her Aunt Trina had just stepped out. Sheila waited at the grocery store by the payphone outside and then called back and was able to speak to her Aunt Trina, who agreed to come pick her up at Grandma's house that morning. She said that she was on her way. From the time that Trina got off the phone and headed over to her grandmother's house, Sheila wasn't there yet. But it had been 20 minutes, which was more than enough time for Sheila to get back on her bike. That's when Trina and Grandma were concerned, and they went out right away to look for Sheila. About 30 minutes after going around the neighborhood looking for her, they decided that they needed to call the police and ask for help. To their credit, Waco officers jumped in really quickly and began establishing a search party, which consisted of patrol officers, the department's special operations unit, and 2 other Waco PD detectives, as well as concerned neighbors and friends who volunteered to join the search. The Texas Department of Public Safety also brought in a helicopter to help aid in the search. The search covered all the way into South Waco, where Sheila's grandmother lived, down into Valley Mills Drive. Neighbors located in the search area were happy to offer tips, however, each one of them led to a dead end. These were leads of people saying that they saw a car stopping and talking to a young girl. One said they saw a girl riding a bicycle that they thought might have been Sheila, but it turned out to be another girl. They made sure to follow up on every single tip they received. Sheila's picture was then shared on local news outlets the day she vanished to make sure that they were alerting the community to keep an eye out for Sheila and to let them know that a child was missing in their community. 2 days later, on October 19th, 1989, just before 3 p.m., Sheila's remains were found at the bank of a lake. A young brother and sister were heading out to go fishing when they spotted Sheila's lifeless body under some trees about 30 feet away from the main road. Justice of the Peace Alan Mayfield, who was called into the scene, said that while Sheila's body was fully clothed, the scene was bloody. Her body would be taken to Dallas for an autopsy and determined her cause of death was from multiple stab wounds all over her body. A sexual assault kit was performed, but because of the investigation that is still ongoing, they have not released those results. However, investigators have confirmed that there was DNA taken from the scene back then, and they have recently sent out samples to the FBI and the DPS crime lab in Waco as of 2022. In 2022, investigators were saying that the main thing that they were focusing on in Sheila's case was the DNA because of how far testing had come. Investigators did say that they were testing all kinds of things when it came to Sheila's case, like her clothing and other things that were found with her, but at the time they're not disclosing more information about the test. There was an arrest made in Sheila's case, but because the man's arrest was based solely on circumstantial evidence, they had to release him. Investigators are not disclosing what evidence led to his arrest, but that there has only been one arrest in Sheila's case, and now they're saying they don't have a suspect in her case and it remains unsolved. In 2022, Detective Alliston said that they wanted to give this public message. Quote, "If anybody knows anything about it, they know who the killer is. If they had a conversation with the killer and they admitted to it, somebody talked to them about it, that they did it, I'd like to talk to them," unquote. Detective Allison went on to say that he is hopeful that Sheila's case will be solved, and if you know anything about it, he would like to talk to you. If you have information in Sheila's case, please contact the Waco PD at 254-750-7500. In Sheila's case, this may truly be a case of somebody doesn't know that they saw something, so please keep sharing Sheila's story in hopes that we can finally bring her justice. Thank you so much for taking the time to get to know Sheila today, and don't forget, when you see those missing and murdered posts on social media, to hit like and share. Because every time we share a face, we do get closer to solving a case. And I will see you guys back here for Texas Day 3 tomorrow.